Hey everyone, Matt from Stronger Personal Training here, going through our next installment on our Maximum Effectiveness series. So this week we're talking all about tricep training and how to really work it when you're trying to build your bench press up. So three main points we want to cover today. First being range of motion and what's appropriate. Second being variations on those lifts that are going to be useful for you in terms of personalizing your approach to your accessory program. And then finally, making sure you're loading properly. So starting out first and foremost, making sure you're using an appropriate range of motion for the exercise you're training, right? Everybody's seen the gym bro at the gym with the whole cable stack or a really heavy band if he's doing band push downs and this or that, and it looks really spastic and it's kind of funny to watch, honestly. More weight can be used that way for sure when you've got less range of motion, but you're probably not going to stimulate the muscle as much. So if you are trying to train for hypertrophy, and you probably should at some point if you're training in powerlifting, because a bigger muscle is going to be a stronger muscle in the long run, using a full range of motion given the exercise you're trying to train is going to be really important. So on your single joint movements like band push downs, skull crushers, dips, or not dips, but skull crushers, those kinds of more elbow dominant tricep exercises, right? Trying to make sure you get full extension especially, and full flexion as well to make sure you're unloading the tricep as well and training through ranges of motion that you're going to train in the bench press. It's going to give you the best carryover to your bench press, as well as giving you the most muscle growth stimulus, which in turn lets you gain more muscle, which lets you be stronger in the long run. So full range of motion. Don't use your ego to lift the weights, use your muscles, okay? Second piece that we want to cover, and this is pretty useful for a lot of people, I feel like it gets overlooked a lot, is varying tempo and grip in order to keep your elbows happy. So not uncommon to hear people doing certain tricep exercises and they say, oh, you know, my elbows always feel really banged up or really sore whenever I do skull crushers or close grip bench or dips or what have you, right? Everyone's a little bit different with this. I haven't found a really strong correlation with, you know, X type of person has issues with this exercise. But that being said, there's a lot of options for tricep training. So if getting your triceps and shoulders as well stronger for your bench press is something you need to be working on, finding the variations that don't hurt, because if you're injured, you're not getting stronger, right? So a couple ways that you can play with this. One is within the same lift, you can vary tempos and grip positions as well. So let's go back to our band push down here, just for an easy to manipulate variation, right? So I could do this with a neutral grip, right, where I've got my palms facing in and going through, right? I could go with an overhand grip where my palms face down, right? And I could go with an underhand grip, right, where my palms face up. All those are going to be slightly different on the elbows. I myself have, with push downs especially, I get some elbow pain when I go with an overhand grip, but generally neutral and underhand to me feel better on my tendons. So when I'm training triceps, I try to stick with those grip positions, right? Like I said, everyone's going to be a little bit different. Going into something maybe a little bit more multi-joint, right? Into something like a skull crusher with a barbell, for example, right? So skull crusher, really popular tricep exercise, right? Where bar is brought down to the skull and back up, right? Some people might find that bugs them. So you could go with an underhand grip, or you could use an easy bar and do the same exercise, right? You could also use a football bar and have a more neutral grip as well, but just listing some examples here on how you can change the grip within the same exercise that you know is effective, right? Another piece that you can change as well, and especially if you do have some tendon-related problems in your elbows with regards to your bench press, is modifying tempo. So tempo work is really, really useful for building connective tissue integrity. So as you get stronger, muscles are going to get stronger, tendons are going to get stronger, sometimes not always at the same rate, depending on the style of which you lift or the parents you have, right? So if you do have elbow problems, sometimes tricep work with a slower tempo can help to develop that connective tissue and those tendons and ligaments in your elbows and build them up a little bit more to build some more strength. Now, generally, you're going to have to go a little bit lighter because your tempo is going to be a lot slower, so you've got more time under tension. While these might not be the best for muscle growth per se, if your tendons are what are holding you back a lot, bringing up that weakest link can help, right? So it can be as simple as 5 or 10-second eccentrics on the tricep exercise you're already doing, like a skull crusher, right? So something like that, and just really, really slow. And that slow lowering helps build up the connective tissue more than just a regular 1 or 2 count tempo would, right? And then the last piece here, and I would say probably the most important more than anything else here, is understanding that specificity still matters. So in the same way that you wouldn't do bicep curls to get stronger at a squat, you want to do generally pretty heavy bench press related exercises in order to get better at bench press, right? So just understand that the further you deviate from a bench press, the less likely that it's going to directly carry over into your bench press strength. And realistically, the more work you're going to have to do in order to get anything to carry over, even if it does correlate well, right? So something like a bench press is probably your best accessory for bench, but if you're lacking in tricep strength, doing something like a close grip bench press and bring your hands in about 1 hand width into a little bit of a narrower position might be a stronger bench or a good tricep builder for your bench press, right? Getting a little bit more deviation from there, you could get into something like a JM press, where it's a close grip bench skull crusher hybrid. So the bar starts over your chin and you do a bench press motion as it touches your chin and gets back up. So you get a little bit more shoulders with this as well. But as you can see, lots of triceps, right? Pretty specific to the bench press still. It's sort of like a very tricep focused bench press, right? Moving a little bit further away from the bench press, but still with what I found to be really good carryover, are things like dips, right? Especially with a little bit of a narrower hand position compared to a wider like chest-focused dip. Dips are probably one of my favorite bench press accessories for building up the shoulders and triceps, right? You can get into things like push-ups and dumbbell bench press and all that stuff as well. I find those tend to carry over a little bit less, at least in my personal experience, with coaching lifters on them. Personal favorites for me, like I mentioned, close grip bench press, JM press, sometimes board press depending on lifter, and dips as a personal favorite, right? That's all for this week. Hopefully getting a little bit more perspective and things you can play with your tricep training for your bench press, and this helps you all bench some new PRs in the coming months. Last thing I wanted to mention is we've got a Stronger You Facebook group called Starting Powerlifting. It's a great community of lifters. We've got everybody from complete beginners who haven't competed at all to people who've been competing for 10 or more years. Everybody's in there to kind of help everybody out. So cheering people on, helping with motivation, form review, asking any questions you might have, and getting answers there are all things you can expect. I'll leave the link in the description of the video on YouTube, as well as in the link in my bio on Instagram. Thanks, I'll see you next week.